Here. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. So we'll go ahead and...
Recording in progress.
Thank you. We will go ahead and call the meeting to order. Please, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Todd, please lead. You have a stronger voice than mine.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, first of all, to Susie and to our virtual city clerk. We'll go ahead and have roll call.
Mayor Cruz,
Present?
Vice Mayor Lands,
Present.
Councilmember Bagby,
Present.
Councilmember Paula,
Here.
and Councilmember Walters.
Here.
Walters?
Walter.
Thank you. Thank you.
Conflict of, wait a minute, we need to have public comment. Anybody for public comment for something that is not on the agenda?
I think you were following the agenda, Mayor. You have conflict of interest declarations and agenda review. Then we'll go to public comment.
Oh, okay, well, I'm following here. I didn't see that, and normally we do that first. So, okay, I have conflict of interest with one item on the consent calendar, and I would like for us to vote on it independently so that I can recuse myself.
Move to pull that item.
Which item?
I think that is, I'm pulling up my agenda right now, so I can't.
Yeah, I'm not looking at, I'm not seeing everything here.
Item number 7.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's highlighted here in purple. Yes. Resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the Sixth Amendment to Purchase and Sale Agreement, PSA with Cooper Tower Family Medical Center.
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to reflect in the record that item number 7 has been pulled from consent. Mayor Cruz is declaring a conflict of interest, and we can take up that item at your pleasure.
Okay. So, any other changes on the agenda?
Madam Mayor, staff does not have any other changes.
Okay, so we'll move on. And now we go to public comments. Yes, that's item B. Any person wishing to speak to City Council on any item not listed on the agenda may do so at this time. Any hands in the public?
I have no hands raised, Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll go ahead and move to proclamations. Proclamation for Latino Heritage Month. Jose, could you read that, please?
I'm trying to find it, Mayor. Maybe if you have it handy. Our posting is a little off.
Yeah.
The usual.
It's like I have two packets open, and I cannot manage this one today.
I almost had to print it. Okay, Mayor. And I could start if you
Yes.
would like me to. A proclamation of the City Council of the City of Cloverdale proclaiming September 15th, 2021 through October 15th, 2021 as Latino Heritage Month. Whereas in 1968, President Lyndon B. Johnson first recognized Hispanic Heritage Week. Later, this was expanded to 1 month. And each successive president has continued this tradition, declaring September 15th through October 15th to be National Hispanic Heritage Month. And Governor Gavin Newsom issued a proclamation Sunday, September 15th, declaring September 15th through October 15th, 2021 as Latino Heritage Month in the state of California. And Sonoma County has a long history of welcoming immigrants and in home to growing multi-ethnic and multicultural Latino populations, including Cloverdale, which has grown over the past several years and now represents 31.1% of our citizens, approximately 2,879 people. And whereas the diverse Latino population of the County of Sonoma makes a significant economic contribution and has many profound positive influences on our community through strong commitment to family, faith, education, hard work, vibrant culture, and service. And whereas for over the past decades, Sonoma County Latino organizations and businesses have continued to foster the culture and traditions to our communities by being active community members and focusing on the areas of education, health, wellness, and local economy. Whereas the City Council of the City of Cloverdale is in deep appreciation to the diverse Latino population of our community and urge all citizens to join us during Latino Heritage Month in celebrating these extraordinary communities and their role in our county. Now therefore be it proclaimed that Mayor Marta Cruz does hereby proclaim September 15th through October 15th as Latino Heritage Month in the City of Cloverdale.
Okay, thank you. I think we need to make a correction on the numbers. According to the last census, it's greater than 31.1. So just make a point of that. And this proclamation will be presented to La Familia Sana. The representative is not here at this moment because we're running an informal cooling center, and she's managing that. So I will go ahead and present that to her. Okay? Yes.
Since I don't need to move the microphone, right? Just angle it, great. I just want to thank staff and whoever's responsible for bringing this forward. I think that this really, reflects the true makeup of our community, even though the 31.1%, Mayor Cruz is correct. That is, I believe that's much higher according to the local census. And it's been really great in the last, 21 years that I've lived in Cloverdale to see how more welcoming and accepting the community has been, and slowly but surely, the community is really coming together as one. And this has really been reflective in the recent changes in the Citrus Fair Parade, where we've actually had Spanish translation, which I think is really a great feature of the parade, welcoming a significant portion of the attendees and a significant portion of the folks who, work at the fair and benefit from the fair, and the community that benefits from the parade. We've also seen changes in the makeup of the band lineup and the attractions at the fair to really, welcome our Latino neighbors, so that there's something really for everyone, because again, this is more than a third of our population. They're a vital part of our economy, a vital part of our families. They're our friends, they're our neighbors, and I'm just very happy to see that the governor has put this forward, and that we're recognizing that sea change in our community moving forward. And I think it bodes well for our schools, our kids, our families, our neighborhoods, and our community as a whole. So thanks again to everybody who brought this forward.
Thank you, Councilmember Bagby. Any other comments?
And Mayor, just real quick, my comment regarding the agenda. Unfortunately, we weren't able to put the links on there. That's what I mean. So that's why everybody has to scroll down and up. So we apologize for that. It's a technical issue on our end.
Yeah, I have two windows open for that. I would like to share that I was interviewed by the Latinx Hub in Santa Rosa to represent Cloverdale as one of the places where Latino achievements have happened in the last few years, including the formation of La Familia Sana and the election of myself as council member here in the council. So thank you very much, and I look forward to continuing exchanging words in Spanish with everybody. Así que muchas gracias. Very well, and now we have another proclamation. And do we have anybody to receive this later on, David?
Madam Mayor, we don't have anyone present, I believe, to accept this proclamation.
Okay, we'll go ahead with it. It's a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Cloverdale proclaiming October 14th as Children's Environmental Health Day in Cloverdale. Whereas the aim of Children's Environmental Health Day is to raise awareness about the importance of clean air and water, safe food. Wait, I just lost myself. Hold on. Actual size. Here we go. And my apologies to everybody. Okay. So, the importance of clean air and water, safe food and consumer products, and healthy environments to children's health and development. And whereas CEH Day was created by the Children's Environmental Health Network and celebrated for the first time on October 13, 2016. And whereas CEH Day is observed on the second Thursday in October as a means to celebrate progress of the children's environmental health movement and create a strong network of child health advocates. And whereas CEH Day is a national effort supported by individuals, nonprofit organizations, and government agencies. And whereas CEH Day encourages individuals and organizations to raise awareness and understanding of children's environmental health issues, seek improved protections for all children, and to perform acts of sustainability or environmental health wellness. And whereas together we can safeguard the health, safety, and well-being of our most precious resource, children. Now therefore be proclaimed that I, Mayor Marta Cruz, do hereby proclaim Thursday, October 14th, 2021 as Children's Environmental Health Day. So, in Cloverdale, we urge all citizens to observe this day with awareness raising and environmental health and stewardship activities to create a healthier environment for our children. I'm hoping that by then I can have a land path event outdoors with the children, of course, given the situation with COVID, but it's more than likely that we'll be going to the open space, which is one of the places where we can really benefit from a safe and clean environment for the children of Cloverdale. So thank you very much for this, and we will present this to the appropriate individual after the meeting. So now we'll go to consent calendar, and so could we go ahead and pull?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to introduce the consent calendar for approval, item 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8.
Second that.
Okay.
Councilmember Walter was the second.
Thank you.
May I have a verification of the first and second?
Councilmember Paula was the motion maker, and Councilmember Walter was the second.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Paula?
Aye.
Councilmember Walter?
Aye.
Councilmember Bagby?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lands?
Aye.
And Mayor Cruz?
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you.
And then I need a motion for 7.
I'll move to approve number 7.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to have some discussion on item 7.
Okay.
Okay,
And I recuse myself. Do I need to go out?
Yes, if
because
there's
there's going to be a
discussion, yes.
discussion. Okay. Thank you.
And for the record, the mayor has recused herself given a conflict, given the location of the project being close to her home.
So with Madam Mayor recused out of the room, I would accept a second by Councilmember Paula and open it for discussion. Councilmember Bagby?
Well, yes, I want to thank the Vice Mayor for a chance to discuss this item. I'm not prepared to support this item tonight, and I'll probably be outvoted, but I want to get this on the record. From the beginning, before I was on the council, and just to go back to the original plan. The original plan was for Alexander Valley Healthcare to be part of the Times Square development and to acquire a piece of, one of the parcels from the city, which I fully support, and I think it's an absolutely great use for a great location for them. However, I was very surprised when the council offered them the corner spot on Times Square, and I've had my concerns about that for some time. Having seen some of the preliminary designs and having, been in the room to kind of talk about the plans for Alexander Valley Healthcare, I'm not convinced that they're actually even going to be able to meet our general plan requirements for our downtown area plan and for our general plan. I believe that also as a representative of, the housing authority, I think I have a fiduciary duty to see to it that we have a highest and best use and a highest best value invested in that property. And I just don't think that the healthcare center on the corner of the entryway to downtown Citrus Fair Boulevard and Cloverdale Boulevard is the right place for them. I think Times Square is the right place for them, but I would prefer to see them on a different parcel. And I think that the fact that we're having to change our plans for the police station, I think that was their main concern about their previous lot that they had anyway, being able to fit their design. And that's just not a concern anymore. So I'm just not prepared to support this tonight. And I have some very big concerns about them, again, being able to comply with the general plan guidelines that were set by this community, by rigorous community outreach. I think that, again, just at the risk of repeating myself, there are better, higher uses for that corner lot that is a key parcel for the gateway to downtown, and that is the bridge to the Great Redwood Trail and the Smart Station. So I completely support Alexander Valley Healthcare. I value them as a vital part of our economy, a vital part of our community, one of our biggest employers. I just don't think that this is the right location for them, and I don't think it's the highest use for that property. And as a trustee of the Housing Authority, I think I have a fiduciary duty to object to it and ask that we move them to a different location on Times Square.
Yeah.
Councilman Walter.
Well,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh, well, Melanie, I'm surprised because this is the first time that I've heard that you have concerns over the location. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention. But, my concerns, I'm willing to support this evening, but my concerns have always been, and I'm assured by staff, that if for some reason the project does not move forward, that property comes back to the city. So, and it is still going to have to go through the review design, and who knows what the front is going to look like. I share my fear of having a 3-story monster sitting there on the corner. So, with the landscaping, with the design review, I think we'll be okay. But I'd like to hear why you think they won't be able to fulfill the general plan obligations. What is lacking from their plan that you see as a problem?
Just some of the preliminary ideas I've seen do not look as though they have a small-scale, human-scale frontage on that corner that is going to be vital to encourage a pedestrian-friendly environment, walkable neighborhoods, and being well integrated to our older and the character of our downtown. That's my concern, is that I think it's going to be out of character with the rest of the downtown. I'm concerned that it won't provide a walkable human scale building as people are coming north and south on Cloverdale Boulevard, as people are coming north and south and then going east on Citrus Fair to the train station or to other, transit-oriented developments, because again, that's what it's zoned for in that area, is transit-oriented development and downtown core. And what I've seen is more consistent with like a bigger office building, maybe a bank building. I'm not convinced that they're going to create that human scale on the ground floor that our general plan calls for and that the public has said that they're interested in for the downtown. So that's my concern. And for the record, I've never been thrilled about that change. I would love to see them on Times Square. I think they're an important partner of ours. I think it's the wrong location.
Well, thank you. I've had the opportunity to work on this probably for over about 8 to 10 years period, and we've had many, many ad hoc committees, and we've had consultants, and we've played with this thing on the property over and over and over and over. And I think, quite honestly, we do need a state-of-the-art medical center in the city. We need it. We have a retirement community, that we have people that are traveling outside of our city to get medical services, or they're in such cramped quarters. We have the opportunity to bring mental health up here. We have the opportunity to bring county services up here, all part of this new design, and I fully support it. I really think we've had this thing on the back burner where the consultants and a lot of money's been spent, and it hasn't moved forward for many years. And I'm ecstatic to see that we're at the stage we are now where we're actually going to take an action and let them go out and obtain grant funding to actually start this much, much needed building and project for the community. You know, they say quality of life focuses around good police services, good fire services, good schools, and good medical services. And I think when we get this state-of-the-art building built and have that occupied, it's going to do a complete turnaround in the way we get medical services in our community. So I'm all for moving this forward, and I'm just ecstatic that it's here at this point today. So.
Thank you, Councilmember Paula. Do we have any public comments at this time? City Clerk Lori, is there any public comments? Or Susie, whoever's in charge of it?
There are no hands raised at this time.
Thank you. With a motion and a second, let's do a roll call, please.
May I have a verification of the first and second, please?
The first was Councilmember Walter, and the second was Councilmember Paula.
Thank you.
And we'll be reading the title.
Council,
We have to read, is this the resolution?
This is the
I'm
resolution.
sorry. I have it, Mr. Vice Mayor.
I apologize for that.
That's okay. City of Cloverdale City Council Resolution Number X 2021, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Cloverdale authorizing the city manager to execute the Sixth Amendment to the Purchase and Sales Agreement, PSA, with Copper Towers Family Medical Center, a California nonprofit public benefit corporation doing business as Alexander Valley Healthcare buyer for Lot B of the Times Square final map for design and environmental and development of a wellness facility.
Thank you, Councilmember.
And Councilmember Paula was second on that.
thank you.
Now roll call, I apologize, Lori.
Councilmember Walter,
Aye.
Councilmember Paula,
Aye.
Councilmember Bagby,
No.
I'm sorry,
No.
thank you. And Vice Mayor Lands.
Aye.
Passes 4-0 with Mayor Cruz recusing herself.
And for the record, it was 3-1 with the.
It was,
recusal.
I'm sorry, it was 3-1 and one recuse.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we'll resume to look at approval of previous city council meeting minutes.
We're done.
We've done that?
Yeah, we're down to E.
We are on E, excuse me. Communications, none at this time. Any corrections to that, David or Susie? No?
Madam Mayor, no corrections to communications. We have not received any communications regarding the agenda this evening.
And now we'll go ahead and have the public hearing for adoption of an ordinance amending sections of the Cloverdale Municipal Code in order to implement state law on small cell and other types of wireless telecommunication facilities. Discussion on the item.
Madam Mayor, if we can, staff's going to give you an overview and presentation of the ordinance this evening. What staff is recommending is that we introduce and conduct first reading by title only and waive reading of the text of the ordinance. But prior to doing so, our Community Development Director and Assistant City Manager is going to give you a presentation and overview of the draft ordinance included in your packet.
Yeah, Lori's going to bring up the PowerPoint. Before I start the presentation, I just want to give you a little background on how we got here with this particular ordinance. We did a lot of research of other cities. We decided to go with modeling our ordinance after the city of Sonoma because we thought it was kind of the most restrictive in terms of the goals of the council when we had an earlier discussion, and I'm going to go through all of those things. Staff and our legal team really believe that this is probably the most restrictive we could be on this particular ordinance, and there's reasons why we can't be as strict as we might want to be because there's federal and state laws, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So we can just go to the next slide, please.
Next slide, Lori.
Yeah, I'm hitting it. I don't know why it's not going here. There we go.
So this ordinance has been in staff's possession for a long time. It's been pretty vetted through our normal process. We talked about it at the Planning and Sustainability Committee on back in December of 19, and then in February 24th we were before the council giving you kind of the basic concepts of what an ordinance was, and we got some direction, and I would like to point out how we tried to follow that direction in the current ordinance. Also, the Planning Commission in August of this year took a really good look at it and provided some good comments, and I'd like to go over some of those comments as well. Next slide. We did talk about this in February, but just real quick, I mean, these are a new type of cell technology. You can see the little picture here. The macro towers are already covered in our current ordinance, which was adopted in 1999. We've had a few applications there. This is the new type of technology, and it really addresses the smaller type of cell service. And these are typically found in the public right-of-way on utility poles. So next slide, please. Oh, just real quick, you don't have to go back, but we have received some interest from some cell companies about installing these. They were kind of tire kickers, so when we kind of got that inquiry, we realized we didn't really have anything in place, so that kind of started this ball rolling. I mentioned the state and federal laws. Just as this is kind of the high overview of what they do. We can't say we don't want them. We can't just explicitly prohibit them. We can't deny them for health concerns due to radio frequencies. Once we get an application, we are under what they call the shot clock, so we have a certain amount of time to act on that. We can't really drag our feet. We can't deny carriers from using the public right-of-way to install their equipment, and it does limit the amount of fees that we can charge going forward having their equipment in our right-of-way. Next slide. So just real quick, the ordinance, kind of an overview of the ordinance. It sets up a permitting process. It's a very long ordinance. I'm sure you guys noticed it's 38 pages and it contains a ton of information. But what it does, this is a general overview. It sets up a process for permitting these types of applications. We're using the use permit process, which is already established with a fee. It gives the application submittal requirements. I don't know if you had a chance to see that. That's about 8 pages of things that we can ask for each application. It outlines what the conditions of approval should be and required findings. And the next two I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in just a second, but it also provides a design criteria, a hierarchy of preferred locations in town. We'll talk a little bit about that. It describes the agreements that would have to be entered into subsequent to them receiving a use permit with a franchise agreement or other agreement for the ongoing use of the public right-of-way. It talks about maintenance of the facilities, and then after 5 years, they're required to do a little bit more submitting some information to us so we can check up on them. So next slide. I mentioned the February 24th meeting. I think we heard two real clear themes from the council direction at that meeting. One was let's try to keep these on main thoroughfares and away from residential uses and smaller streets as much as possible. And the other one was let's try to keep it as aesthetically pleasing as we can. So I'm just going to go through the ordinance and where we think we've hit these key direction points from the council. Keeping it away from the main thoroughfare. So we have a hierarchy of preferences of where we would like to see those, and these are outlined in these four topics here. They're zoning designations. So our first preference would be residential, commercial, industrial, public, and then residential. I did speak to our land use attorney today, and it's great to have these. It demonstrates that the city has put effort into, putting a message out as to where we want these. Ultimately, they may be a little bit hard to defend because of the FCC, but our strategy here is to have this on the books and to work with carriers and to hope, if they want to come in and challenge all of us, we may have to relook at this, but our thought is that they'll want to work with us. We've had many discussions about where we want them, so that would be kind of our tact on this, on the location. Also, it requires 1,500-foot separation, and I'd talk a little bit about that in the next slide. So trying to keep them, as aesthetically pleasing as possible. This happens in two places. The application submittal requirements gives where they have to provide a written documentation that they made a good faith effort. That's not really where the rubber hits the road. It's more in the preceding 3 sections where there's actually 9 pages of design guidelines. And you can see that in those design guidelines, almost everything is covered. And maybe we go to the next slide. We can talk a little bit more about that. These are just some of the highlights of what's in the design guidelines. The size of antennas, the pole heights, the dimensions, the location, not only where we want them in town, but also where they sit on the sidewalk and where they sit in the right-of-way is covered. The placement of wires, how that's handled, ADA compliance, of course. The separation requirement of 1,500 feet. I think this is really to design to encourage co-location so that, AT&T and Verizon could be in the same facility. Again, speaking to the attorney about this one may be a little hard to enforce, but it's really there to try to encourage co-location. And we can certainly enforce it on the same carrier. So AT&T would have to be 1,500 feet away from each other. If somebody wanted to come in the middle of that 1,500 feet, we would encourage them to co-locate with AT&T, but ultimately, if they pushed it hard enough, we probably would have to concede on that. The accessory equipment, I don't know if you remember back in February, I showed some pictures of some god-awful facilities that we found on the internet. What is really good about this ordinance is its first stance is all the ground-mounted equipment needs to go underground in a vault. So that's where we're standing, and unless they can demonstrate that it's technically infeasible, say for example there's a water line under there or there's some other reason, and it gives the city engineer leeway to evaluate that. The total square foot of the footprint on the ground-mounted equipment is 15 square feet. And if they can't underground it, the way we want it is our first preference. There's some pretty rigorous screening requirements where they would have to screen it, keep the sidewalk open. So like I said, there's 9 pages of different design guidelines. So I think we've covered this aspect of what's happening here when these 5Gs eventually come to town. Next slide. We did receive, before we went to Planning Commission, we got a letter from Comcast requesting a new definition be added to really where the exemptions would fall. And this is related to their Wi-Fi service, the Xfinity Wi-Fi, that you often will pick up in towns if you're, out and about. And I pulled up this picture, and this is what they look like. Now, the wires, they don't look great, but the box is really what it is. So the intent of this ordinance, just my opinion, would not be to restrict Wi-Fi access or the addition of these Wi-Fi units that are already in town. So they've requested that this amendment be added, this definition. So this number 8 here would be an exemption from the ordinance. And if the council chooses to accept this, I put on the dais, so if you do end up adopting this, it would be as amended to show this reflection of this new definition requested by Comcast. Next slide, please. So just to go over the Planning Commission comments, they were in favor of allowing the Comcast request. They did not oppose that. They recommended that the council consider including that in the ordinance. They were asking questions regarding the size of the antennas. We did look it up, and it's 24 inches is the biggest antenna we allow, so that seems to fall in with industry standards. So I think we're good there. There was the two remaining comments were they wanted to make sure that we didn't pay for the cost of electricity to run these facilities since they're in the right of way, and that all insurance was provided. And what I'm suggesting, can you go back for 1 sec? What I'm suggesting is number 3 and number 4 would likely be conditions of approval at the Planning Commission for a use permit. So I think we're covered there. I mean, we could amend the ordinance. I mean, it's 36 pages now, and I just figured, these are pretty standard things that we would ask for when someone comes in for a building permit or as conditions of approval at the Planning Commission. So those are the Planning Commissioner's comments. Okay, next slide. So again, David kind of went over our recommendation tonight. We're asking the council consider introducing the ordinance and waiving reading of the text. And if we do that, I'll come back next council meeting with the second reading on consent, if that's okay, or we can talk about it again. That concludes my presentation. I'm here for questions.
Comment. Yeah, thank you, Kevin, for the thorough review of showing how we've lost yet another area of local control at the city level. I just want everyone to know. And Joe, I don't remember if you were still on council when this was at the League of Cities. We fought this hard. We thought we had a chance. Yeah. And the FCC stepped in and squashed that. So this is basically a federal mandate taking away local planning control from a city. So, Sacramento is not the only place that does that. Let's give credit where credit is due. So, but I do remember this coming vaguely, Kevin. It was like ancient history since before the pandemic, I think. Or it was like right at the beginning.
You've seen it at the subcommittee,
yeah, we saw it.
And then again in February here.
I think Gus and I saw it at the subcommittee level, if I remember. And so, and I also want to, thank the Planning Commission. I think they did a really good job of reviewing this and giving really good comments. I mean, again, it's like we're in a position where this is just the best we're going to get. And I think you've done a great job of putting it together. So knowing that, again, most of this is out of control, I'm ready to support this evening and have it come back on consent.
One quick question for you, Kevin, if you don't mind. The part where it says if they can't put their power into a vault in the ground, you were asking for a 15 square foot box. That's quite large. Is there a reason that number was chosen?
There's the maximum footprint they can have for their ground equipment is 15 square feet. So I'm not
bigger than the table you're sitting at, so it makes me a little nervous. And I'm wondering I'm just trying to figure out where it came from so that I know if that's all we get, it's all we get. However, if we can shrink that size, that's pretty large to have on your sidewalk next to a pole.
No kidding.
Yeah, I mean, there are other provisions in there under the design that requires them to keep clearance on the sidewalk, 15 square feet. I'm not exactly sure where it came from, if it came from the industry standards. This is modeled after the city of Sonoma, so that's where we got a lot of the information. I'm happy to look into that and report back next time. You may have seen some of the equipment. It's typically not 15 square feet. That is definitely for sure. It's a box, looks like electrical in a new subdivision. So I'm not exactly sure where the 15 came from, but maybe we could shrink that down. I'd have to do a little research.
If you don't mind, I will do the same, and see if we can have something smaller maybe.
Okay.
If not, it's accessible. I appreciate your time.
So, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of things. I'd like to piggyback on Councilmember Bagby's thank you to the Planning Commission for doing the heavy lifting on this particular project along with Kevin. And, just a compliment to that Planning Commission. As a liaison to the Planning Commission, I get to attend the meetings. And if I can't do it in person, I do it on Zoom. And we have a really talented group of Planning Commissioners right now. They ask the hard questions, they're not afraid to bring up the hard subjects, and they're just doing a wonderful job. So I have a couple of questions, and I don't know if these are going to roll to Jose or not, but I guess my concern is, maybe I'm thinking too deep into this. We have very little control over this, but I'd like to get a little update on the abandonment of equipment. And then also the co-location and succession of ownership. And what I'm referring to is, I'm always looking for ways to increase revenue to the city. So if all of a sudden T-Mobile has one of these and they sell it to Verizon, is it transferable? Do they have to apply for a new license with the city?
Well, they would have to, there would be an agreement. So after they go through all of this at the Planning Commission, we then enter an agreement with them. Part of that is, way deep in the ordinance, there is a discussion of abandonment. We do require a bond. I don't know how long we keep that bond, but I think that there's a way for us to remove the equipment and charge them. It's addressed in the ordinance. I don't know all the ins and outs, but I know that the abandonment of equipment is addressed in here. And then I would think that if, just say AT&T got a use permit and they put them up all over and then they wanted to sell those to Verizon, I think I could be wrong about this, but if they were going to keep it exactly the same, like in physical form, they weren't enlarging it or changing anything, they would be able to do that. But they would also need to re-enter an agreement with the city regarding the use of the poles, the insurance, and all of those things. So that would have to be updated. But I'm pretty sure that's, the use permit would, provided they're not changing anything. I don't know, Jose, if you have a different opinion about that.
We would definitely, you're right, Kevin, and I know the section is 1540-200 that you're looking at, Councilmember Walter, and there is a process if if one of these facilities are going to be abandoned or one of these pieces of equipment are going to be abandoned, they do have to let the planning director know. And failure of letting the planning director know, if you see in subsection C, that's a violation, and any approvals of their approvals and grounds for prosecution, revocation of modification of permit, calling of any bonds, and that's where the bonds come in to make sure that you have the money there, or assurance required under this chapter on conditions of approval of the permit, because the requirement is for them to remove it, not just to leave it there. So that's what the ordinance tries to get as far as security goes, in order to make sure that we are covered. And of course, we ended up putting any other remedies permitted under Cloverdale Municipal Code. So we'd be trying to go further. As been mentioned, the federal law does limit the jurisdiction. The ordinance, what you see in the ordinance really does put out a lot of different restrictions and requirements. Now, the goal here and how it's been working in other jurisdictions is that Comcast, for example, wants to come in and they want to put these up. And they want to look at an ordinance and say, you know what, we can go ahead and perform. And there's not a lot of pushback and there's performance, but it really leaves an avenue of negotiating and trying to make sure that we get the best looking product for the city. And when I say the best looking product, I mean, it's the compromise, right, of that would look horrible, at least this looks better. And that's definitely what we're trying to do. And just a point, if Comcast, Kevin, just to make sure, Comcast, the only comment they had was that small definition that they wanted entered into, correct?
Yeah, that's
From the
correct.
ordinance
It's on the
review.
dais, it's highlighted. They wanted the addition of that definition under really the exemption section. So facility does not mean the following, and then it has things about ham radios and, emergency equipment radios, and they want to be lumped into that category with their small Wi-Fi.
And the point being that it seems as though even with Comcast reviewing this, and Comcast has, I've seen them in other jurisdictions willing to kind of fall under ordinances like these and actually work with jurisdictions, and that's what we're hoping with now with something like this.
Well, I guess I'll have to read that ordinance a little closer. And it was 15.40/200?
On page
Yes.
50, page 52,
1540,
or
200,
page 116 of the packet.
exactly.
Okay, close
Yeah,
enough.
oh, yeah, 117, sorry, close over, it leads over.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
We're very good hunting here. Go ahead.
The first thing I'll say is that we need to get this index issue resolved, because this is hard finding stuff, especially when we're going over something as dense as this language. So, yeah, we need to get that fixed for future meetings. And secondly, I think Councilmember Walter brings up a really good point. We could be, 5G is the hot new thing. It's, okay, so it's only a 24-inch box. But it'll be around for 5 years, and then there will be a new technology. And there's huge potential for them to abandon this stuff on our watch. And so I'm pretty satisfied with the language as it's outlined, that we have recourse to say, you know what, use it or lose it. You got 2 weeks. If you don't come, and if we find that it's not being used, it's coming down. So I'm pretty satisfied with the language, but I really appreciate the foresight, because we don't want a bunch of junk hardware hanging on our power lines indefinitely. We want to have recourse, because there is going to be, a hot new thing. It's very disappointing that we can't regulate the look and feel of our own communities. But without that, I think that this is we're doing the best that we can with what we have. So again, yeah, I'm ready to move forward with this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of quick comments. First of all, I just want to join everybody thanking the Planning Commission for all their input, and our planning director. And I agree wholeheartedly. It seems like every time we take a step forward, the state and the federal government kind of take away our ability to regulate our own community. And it's really a sad situation, because I think our goal is to have the technology here, but we should be able to have it set up to meet our residents' desires and aesthetically as well. And when they take that away, it makes it very difficult for us to do what's best for our own community. So that's the only frustration, but I am satisfied with this, and I can support that. So.
Before we open to the public for comments, I would like to ask Kevin, it also says that the private, if it happens to be located in private property, the private property owner shall also be independently responsible for the expense of timely removal and restoration. My question is, and perhaps this is for you and Jose, would the city have the liberty to enter a private property to remove, or would it be trespassing?
Well, there would be a permit that would have to be agreed upon as well by property owners if it's on private property. So we'd be looking at, and this is a good point as far as even the permits go, Kevin kind of put it in there that they have to comply with the removal sections. And the removal sections are a few, and this Councilmember Walter, it does start on page 116 of the packet, and actually it goes through page 118, so very lengthy removal and restoration, but that's something to definitely look at, because there is the failure to remove, and there are potential violations of the municipal code But that's something that we should be exploring in our permits, in the language of our permits, as far as them getting approval, if it's on private property by, let's see, the private property owner. So maybe, Kevin, that's something I've put down on my list for us to look at as far as the permit process.
Definitely.
Thank you. And now, do we have any hands in the public? Anybody?
I have no hand raised.
All right. Then I guess we'll continue on this. So you have clear direction, Kevin?
But we are asking, Mayor, for the introduction of the ordinance, waiving the first reading of the ordinance tonight, and it will come back, if that's done, as amended, if the council agrees with the request from Comcast, and then it would come back for the second reading at the next meeting.
And then the language of the private property.
The language, we're looking at, maybe looking at the actual permit, when we actually issue permits, to make sure that that's in there.
I'll look at the 15 square feet, and you can report back on that.
So, Madam Mayor, I'd like to introduce the first reading by title only, waiving the reading of the text of the ordinance titled An Ordinance of the City of Cloverdale, adding Chapter 15.40, Wireless Telecommunication Facilities, to the City of Cloverdale Municipal Code, establishing regulations for wireless telecommunication facilities.
Second?
As amended?
As amended.
As amended. Yes.
Verification, is that Lands and Bagsby?
It was Councilmember Paula introduced it. Councilmember
Paula.
Bagby seconded.
And I'm sorry, the second?
Councilmember Bagby.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Paula.
Aye.
Councilmember Bagby.
Aye.
Councilmember Walter.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lands.
Aye.
Mayor Cruz.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Okay, now we go to new business, and that is the Cloverdale Chamber of Commerce funding agreement for fiscal year 2021 to 22.
Good evening, Mayor. Tonight, we're going to be entertained by our Chamber Director, Nina Hanchett, who's going to provide a presentation, and along with her, our Assistant Director of the Chamber, Savannah Hemphill. But prior to the presentation, just to introduce this item, tonight, staff is requesting adoption of a resolution approving a professional services agreement with the Cloverdale Chamber of Commerce for economic development, promotional services for the current fiscal year 21-22, and authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement. As you know, the council has, on an annual basis, provided funding assistance to the Cloverdale Chamber of Commerce to conduct, really what I consider, three primary activities, which includes staffing the visitor center, conducting marketing and promotional efforts, as well as conducting business outreach and economic development. Given all the disasters and emergency events that have impacted Cloverdale, the Chamber has also taken quite a role in our Resilient Cloverdale initiative, and as approved earlier this evening by Council, the Clover Ready initiative. And so this is kind of a new frontier for our Chamber to be a partner in emergency preparedness and work with our business community and be part of that effort to prepare our business community in particular, but really to the benefit of our entire community to be better prepared for the emergencies that we know are it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when they're going to impact our community. So with that said, I'd like to just go ahead and turn it over to both Nina and Savannah, and they're going to walk us through a PowerPoint presentation highlighting some of their accomplishments and plans for the current fiscal year. So with that said, I'd introduce Nina Hanchett and Savannah Hemphill.
Thank you. Thank you, City Council members, staff, audience. Appreciate it. So rather than read this word for word, I want you to take a look at the bullet points, but we pretty much are the glue that holds a lot of this place together. We do social media posting. We are very proud of our ability to team with the city and at this point sort of be the communication arm until at some point the city has its own promotion arm or communication arm. So we value that. We do things on behalf of our chamber member businesses, but we also do things for the larger business community in Cloverdale. We did a survey this year, which I don't think we even listed on the PowerPoint. I thought about all these things afterwards. We provided heaters. We asked the community for donations. We provided heaters to non-member businesses because they needed them for their restaurant clientele outside. We don't really differentiate. We do a few things that sort of give value to the chamber membership because it is an annual fee. We welcome promotional material in a welcome bag that we deliver to new residents of Cloverdale, and we'll do new renters too if the property managers let us know. We do about 20 of those a month. We also, for business members, we also created an online presence called Shop Local Cloverdale, and all they have to do is send us pictures of what they do, and we post it so that people want to come to Cloverdale and shop local. We do Experience Cloverdale posting for all businesses and for different groups and service organizations and what have you. So you could go to the next slide if you want. We have lots of Cloverdale swag that is available to everybody. It's pretty reasonable. Some of it's even free. So I basically said that already. Those are some of our posts. So there's some of our businesses, and it looks like there's a really cute little fairy door too. I think that's at the library. I mean, no, it's at Kleiser Park. It's super cute. So we can move on.
Next slide.
Savannah, do you have anything to say? Because I feel like I'm...
Yeah, I'll start talking.
Okay, you will.
So,
this is your baby, kind of.
Other than just shop and support local, which is specific to chamber members, like she said, we have Experience Cloverdale, which highlights all of the wonderful things that you can do in this community, from events, businesses, things that people are doing around town, like ferry doors, kids riding their bikes down the street. It makes you want to live in this community, and it makes you proud to live in the community if you already do. On top of that, if we could move to the next slide, the chamber does put on the summer sidewalk sale in the fall or early fall every year.
It was in August.
It was in August, yeah. We are proud of this event. Every business is able to participate in this event. We promote any business that says they're going to participate in this event. People are walking downtown, so it's really great for any business. On top of that, if you want to hit the next, one more slide. One more.
We kind of...
just a couple...
Like early June?
Early June, late July, the welcome signs were finally installed. So that's been a long project. We are now looking at a third location near the southern entrance, down
by Bear Republic.
Bear Republic. So it's going to sit on Bear Republic's property potentially. So that's kind of the next step in that. But the other signs have been replaced, and they do have lighting.
Yeah, they do have lighting, and they also, depending upon when the light hits them, they also have shadows that hit them, and as a result, we're going to look at a different background color for the third sign. Lots of times, I mean, I think they're really pretty, but they do sometimes throw shadows, and that's because the letters are raised off the sign, and they're guaranteed to last, I don't think I saw the guarantee, but 20 years. They're made out of steel.
Powder coated.
Powder coated.
Yeah. Next slide, please.
And we had volunteers install them, and Roger Fletcher, or Fletcher Fabrication from Cloverdale, built them. We had the Sons of the American Legion help put those in, and the city people marked all the underground and helped us a lot with permitting.
So during COVID, the chamber has provided one-on-one assistance with county, state, and federal funding.
That was almost a full-time job.
Our office has been open to businesses to come meet with people when we couldn't assist, just to give them a place to meet in town.
And that was for chamber members and non-chamber members.
We did a lot of walking through people on how to fill out their grant and where to click a button and everything like that. We also, during the pandemic, had a community resource website that listed every single business that was open, doing takeout, and
whatever
they were doing, regardless of whether they were a chamber member or not.
The videos.
Yeah.
We did videos.
Yeah.
And we're going to resume doing videos, but we've kind of got car show going on. Look, show your shirt off.
Yeah, car shows this weekend.
It's hot and heavy this weekend.
On top of that,
We do represent businesses on the homeless advisory group. They come, oftentimes they'll send information to me or ask for us to be the mouthpiece for some specific things that need to have attention called to them. We are a resilient Cloverdale Corps partner. It didn't start out this way, but we are, we do them.
Yeah, some of you may have seen a brochure that's been passed out. I know David did a booth at Friday Night Live a couple of weeks ago, and we did it at the expo as well. So there was an evacuation brochure that was created that came out of our office. We created that with our graphic designer that is local here in town. A Spanish version, we just got the final copy today. After Marta had looked it over and did some corrections for us. It's going to go one more time for review next Tuesday, and then it is being mailed Spanish and English to every person
Every
in the city
post office address.
City of Cloverdale, yep.
And our target date for that is the first week in October, so we're hoping that all comes together.
Can you hit the next slide, please?
What's coming up? We continue to pretty much provide whatever resources our businesses need and whatever resources the community needs in terms of what service organizations are doing, whether it's the Oktoberfest or
Craft
whatever.
feeds.
Yeah.
We do have a small town video that's going to be coming out. The first time you'll get to see it is at the State of the City brunch on October 8th. So those of you who have not gotten a ticket yet, I recommend calling our office. That's going to be a fun event.
Although we don't have too many seats
Yeah,
left.
there's only about 10 seats left. So if you're not signed up yet, I recommend
The
calling me
videos,
tomorrow.
And the video is really sweet. It's going to be available for our community to use in promoting and for our real estate people, for whomever. It's something we put together and we feature past and present in Cloverdale.
Business Watch in-person outreach.
We're going to do that with
CPD.
Lieutenant Parker soon after the car show where he and I and whomever, maybe one of you, would like to actually go to downtown businesses and find out what their immediate needs are and how we can better meet them or, get pats on the back, which would be nice. So, and then also we missed the festival part and the event part. And a lot of that is going to be dictated by what happens outside of us in terms of COVID, pandemic, and that kind of thing. But we're working and pretty much we already have planned meetings to work on Winter Festival tree lighting. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like yet, but we'll know more.
We're trying to be hopeful that trick-or-treating can be downtown this year versus a parade. So trick-or-treating to downtown businesses.
The last time that happened was in 2019, and it was on there was a power failure and Kincaid, and still tons of kids, and it was super fun, and the businesses really enjoyed it. More candy than
Yeah.
yeah.
A lot of candy's needed.
A lot of candy's needed. That's right.
And I think that's
So
it.
that's pretty much it, but we're here to answer your questions or address any concerns.
You need to remind the council that we are all to donate candy for trick or treat.
Yes.
There's no question, yeah. It will be well used.
I couldn't believe how much candy we went through in the parade. We ran out.
And we had a whole room full. It was pretty amazing. So, questions? Comments?
Go ahead, council member, and then we'll have the chief. Oh, the
Oh,
chief.
the chief, go ahead.
I didn't really have any questions, but I just wanted to say that I think they, both of them sold themselves a little bit short on their Clover Ready campaign and what they do. Since this started, they have really taken the lead on this. And of course, as you recall, when it was brought forth at June 23rd, this is really an outreach campaign to really promote awareness, preparation, and activation of our evacuation plan. And the goal here is to reach every single member of our population, regardless of mobility issues, regardless of race, no matter how they do it. They have really stepped up and have done an enormous amount of work. You can find them, just like they said, Friday Night Live, find them at the Fire Expo, and they're really taking the lead on all the outreach efforts of this. And I certainly appreciate it, and you've done an enormous amount of work and a fantastic job.
Thank you, Chief. And we really realize that for the economic development part of that is that we don't have anything sustainable if we can't survive a natural disaster or a man-made disaster that affects our business community and our community at large, our schools and all of the organizations in Cloverdale. It's like bedrock.
Councilmember Walter and then Councilmember Bell.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. You know, Chief, I think they sell themselves short on a lot of things, but I hope that I make it quite clear that this council member appreciates everything you do, not just one time a year when you're applying for a budget, but when I go by your office, I always like to stop in and say hello. The chamber does a wonderful job. What I like about it the best, it's all-inclusive. I mean, you took the lead on a lot of things during these disasters, and it didn't matter whether they were chamber members or not. So for that, I thank you both. Keep up the good work. And for some reason, I don't know why I haven't purchased my ticket yet, unless the city has already purchased them for council members. But
Don't
please,
count on it.
please put me down for one.
Okay, you got it, Gus.
And I'll
Thank you.
stop by the next couple of days and get it.
Okay.
Tell you the keynote speakers are Debbie Howell from AVH,
Peter Kruger.
Peter Kruger, I always want to say Kevin Kruger.
From Bear
but-
Republic.
From Bear Republic.
And Dahlia
And David, and hopefully partnering with Mayor Cruz or somebody else from the city. So that'll be at the Trading Post on October 8th.
Just as a business owner, I just want to say that I'm observed the phenomenon that I feel it's like I know my services are great, but it is like the last thing I want to do is promote myself, and it's so hard. And you guys do this. It's kind of heartwarming to see you stand up here and undersell yourselves so much and have to remind, like, oh, and remember you did this, and remember you did this. I just want you to know that we see it and we appreciate it. And also, you know, I think that during the pandemic, what you did more than anything was just letting people know that they weren't alone. I mean, whether it was just knowing that they had the option to come in and get help with, you know, the online applications, just knowing that they had that option, I think was comforting for a lot of people. And you really did, you know, provide that. And I just want to, you know, thank you both for doing such a fantastic job, and a pusher board as well. But I will say, I found a glaring error on your website, and I see that we would also tonight be providing funding moving forward for a continuing, you know, outbound communication from the city. And there's a huge glaring error on the city website as well, and that is that there isn't an accessibility module either in the chamber website or the city website. And it's becoming more and more accepted.
Right.
It's becoming more and more common, but I think it's really important. And actually, I want to commend whoever is managing the city website and the translation The translation is working pretty darn well. It is not too bad, and it's multilingual, not just Spanish and English. So that module is working well, but we do not have a disabled person module or, or add-in on either of those websites.
We've been talking to our website developer about it.
Excellent.
And everybody needs access.
Everybody needs to have access for everybody, whether they're vision
It's-
impaired or, they're, if you're appealing to an elderly population or populations
sight
who have
impaired
different
or,
needs, autistic individuals, things like that. Websites need to be responsive to those needs. And so I just wanted to bring that out, is that I just sort of, while I was reading my packet and reviewing everything, I went to the chamber website and I went to our website, and I think it was just the first time I noticed it. So I hope that we would be able to, in both entities, move forward. And I don't want to, plug a particular app, but, Accessibe is one plugin that you can get. There are others that make things accessible for people with disabilities, and I just think that in addition to the language accessibility, that's something that we need to move forward on as well. But other
It's a
than
work
that,
in progress.
Thank you so much for all the work that you do, and for all the work on Clover Ready, and just letting business owners and the community, they're people. And this has been a very difficult, I don't even remember, it's like, was it over a year?
A year and a
It's been
half.
2 years. We're going on 2 years, and you just provided that comfort of knowing that if they did need, even if they didn't come to you, if they did need help, that you were there. So I just really appreciate you and all you've done in the last almost 2 years. So thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Powell?
Nothing left to say.
Sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't want to repeat everything that was said, but
Go
I
ahead.
just
They deserve
wanna-
it.
I just want to join in and just thank you. It's always a pleasure to stop in and talk to you about different issues, and I really appreciate how fast that you jump on those things to make things happen in a positive way. The only other thing I just wanted to add is, I know years ago we had where we would set up like a little group to meet with some absentee vacant businesses, and talking to the owners and trying to kind of encourage them to do something hopefully productive with the buildings. And I'd like to see that maybe revisited again. I really think we have a few downtown that have been vacant for a while, and it would be nice to maybe get a little group together that we could meet with some of these people and just chat a little bit about the impacts of having those vacancies downtown and look at some options for that.
It's a great idea.
But I just want to thank you again for everything that you've done and continue to do for us on behalf of the city. So thank you.
Thank you.
I won't go on and on. We're blessed to have you guys, and I can't thank you enough. I like to spend a lot of time asking people about you and going down to your office and speaking with you guys, and we're lucky to have you, so thank you.
Thank you.
We're lucky to have you.
I am happy to be the on-call translator for the chamber.
Yes.
At no charge. So, no, it's a great achievement from when I moved here 5 years ago to today, to see the translation services, the outreach to the community. And they forgot to mention that they work very closely with the Economic Development Board for the county. And we have representatives from them coming here and sitting with them and the clients, the business owners, to apply for these incredible applications that change day by day. And that they have been able to calm the business owners in incredible ways when it's been such a frustrating activity. I am looking forward to the Christmas planning, and I would like to suggest that maybe we could include a posada station.
It would be delicious.
Yes, and there's so many kids that enjoy that, and hopefully
Big kids, too.
yeah, big kids. I'm a kid always, and I'm hoping that the weather collaborates this
Us
year.
too. Us too.
2019, it was
And,
pretty bad.
I want to encourage all the council members and staff to volunteer at the Clover Ready tent as much as they can. And also this weekend, we have the breakfast, and we have the car show, and I have many other things to do, but definitely be there for the breakfast at the senior center, either to help or to eat.
We also have a ribbon cutting in the midst of the car show.
Yes.
And when I sent the invitation out the other day, it said June 11th. I found out today it was June. It should have been
Wow.
September. I didn't see it.
Now, do you know how many people are registered for the car show as of today?
So
Do we?
last week on Thursday, we were convinced that the car show was going to be
Car show light.
Car show light was going to be small due to COVID. We were at 110 entries, and today we passed what was 2019 174 entries. So this will be the biggest car show pre-registered we've ever had. So we cut off judging today, and we do that for staff just because it's a lot of work day of to try and get those cars registered and get judges to them. But we expect it to be a pretty big event. The ribbon cutting, I talked to a business owner today, they're expecting over 100 people at the ribbon cutting at noon. That is an event to benefit, I believe, the high school senior class, or I think it's the senior class? Photography group, yep.
Yes, with the event.
Yep.
She's a photographer.
Yep.
Imagine that.
And then there's also the ribbon cutting of the brand-new football field that's coming up as well.
That's
So,
a week from Friday.
Yep.
And you'll get an invitation for that soon.
Great. Do we have any hands in the public?
No comments.
Okay. So we'll close public comment. And I would like only to request one thing, and is I would like to see who are the vendors that are being used for Clover Ready.
For Clover Ready,
Yeah. So, it could be at another point. It doesn't have to be today.
I think that list has been compiled.
And even though the radio stations are in Santa Rosa, they reach out to all the Latino community. And so you did receive my list of contacts for the Latinx community, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, great. So we are rolling.
We are rolling.
Okay, thank you again for all your work.
Madam Mayor, I just have a quick question.
Yes.
If I may. On the breakfast that's coming up, is there going to be a city table for that, or we get our individual tickets? Because I haven't heard that. Because I will go, I'll take a ticket, just want to.
That is through the senior center.
So the
Right?
State of the City breakfast is through the chamber.
Through the chamber.
The city, I do not believe,
We don't have a city table. We have,
we
You're
can put
welcome.
one together. I think there's about 10 seats left. I know, David, we already were planning on you, and Kevin, we were planning on you, so your names are already on the list, but anybody else? I know
Todd.
Gus added, and Todd. So anybody else who wants to add, I can add your name tomorrow and make sure that you guys have a place.
And our recommendation is that you not necessarily have a city table, but that it's going to be a family, yeah.
Mingle with all the
You're gonna-
business
it's-
owners.
They're going to
and-
be, it's family style, that's my recommendation. But you're welcome. It's just first come, first serve. Todd, yes? Melanie, yes? No? Yes?
Yeah,
Okay.
we're yes all the way.
So, Madam Mayor, I'd like to recommend the item by title only.
You can second.
Oh, sorry. Oh, go ahead. Oh, okay. Resolution of the Council of the City of Cloverdale approving a professional service agreement between the Cloverdale Chamber of Commerce and the City of Cloverdale for economic development and promotional services during fiscal year 2021-22, and authorizing the city manager to execute the agreement on behalf of the city.
I'll second. That was
Councilmember-
Councilmember Bagby and Vice Mayor Lands.
Councilmember Bagby,
Aye.
Councilmember Paula,
Aye.
Councilmember Walter,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lands,
Aye.
and Mayor Cruz.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Aye. Thank you, guys.
I usually stay, but I've got some other things going on, so
Have dinner. I had a snack. Now we move to item 11. direction of the 2021 League of California Cities Conference resolution, and I thought we covered that before. Or
Well,
is there a new one?
the resolutions have since been released, and I
Updated.
recommend that, we recommend the mayor support both of these items.
I've been reading the emails, yes.
Madam Mayor, members of
Is
council.
that a
just-
motion?
That's a motion.
I'll second it.
All right.
I do have a couple of questions, if you don't mind, and I think Melanie, you might know, or Marta, somebody might know the answers to these. And I don't understand this, obviously, as well as you guys do. When it talked about the funding for the CPUC cleanup, they started talking about how they had a large amount of money within themselves. But then they went on to say, there's $12 billion for the homeless, and we're looking at taking a part of that to clean this up. I have a very difficult problem with that when we have a company that's looking to take some of the money that is being provided for homelessness.
Well, it's
And
not a company.
If I'm wrong, and please
Yeah.
tell me if I'm reading this wrong, because it looks like they were trying to get in on, like, about 1.1 billion that's used to clean up the trash. They want their portion of that. And so if I'm misunderstanding, please tell me.
Yeah, it's not a company, it's California Public Utilities Commission. And actually, Jose, probably be best to answer this is in that they, well, the irony of this is that this is coming along after SMART is taking control of the line from NCRA. And our problem all along with NCRA was that they didn't have any money to do the cleanup that we're talking about here. So we're kind of asking Cloverdale to support this in spirit. But perhaps Jose can opine further on the implications of the funding. And you're correct that CPUC has money in their own budget for this.
And it was exactly what you had said, how
Yeah.
with SMART taking over and all these people taking over the rails,
Right.
with them not maintaining them for
It's-
so
it's-
long.
It's CPUC would finally be held responsible for making sure that whoever is responsible for it actually does the enforcement. I
So
mean,
would
that's-
they be taking, or looking to take the money out of the homeless money
That's a
budget
great-
versus their own?
That's a great question. So,
That's
Jose,
why
what's your reading on that? That's a really good finer point. It's just that it's an enforcement. It's that we're forcing them to actually enforce what they're supposed to be doing, which is they're supposed to be, as the California Public Utilities Commission, they're supposed to be protecting citizens and cities and other municipalities and maintaining those lines, and they have been derelict in.
Which I 100%
Yeah,
agree.
yeah.
However, I just didn't want the money to be coming from a different budget, because now
Sure.
their eyes light up when they see billions of dollars.
Oh, sure,
going
we'll
somewhere
do it
that
if we
they
can get the money
they
from
can
somewhere
steal
else.
from.
Yeah, that's a great question.
It is a good question, and as I was reading it, I was having kind of the same question, because it does talk about the money, then it talks about the state budget allocations, and that's when they start pointing to state budget allocations with the approved, the $12 billion. So it seems as though one of the tough parts with the CPUC is kind of like Councilmember Bagley was mentioning, it's the stuff that they should be doing already, so it's kind of now making the requirements instead of having local agencies, for example, enter into MOUs and enter into separate agreements in order to go into these places. So that is something to further explore, and maybe, I mean, obviously, we'd be looking at the league continuing to work on a bill like this, but that is a great point.
And refining perhaps that point.
Absolutely. I think it almost seems like a starting point.
So, okay, and that's my next question, is with this and you going to support for us, do we send you with this information, or do we just say we support both resolutions
No,
and?
we discuss.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Because I've never been
And
there, I
I'm
don't know. so-
hoping you come if the conference goes on.
Yeah, I would love to. so
We're hoping
I'd
it
love to
happens.
learn. So thank you, and that was my only concern, was that they were trying to take the money out of a very easy budget that should be used for something else instead of their
So,
own.
and just if I could expand on this just a little bit, just in clarification, this resolution, if passed by the league board, that goes now to the legislator trying to get them to buy into the process, and of course, ultimately, to the governor.
Okay.
So it's a long ways from even being a done deal. This is just cities banding together saying, this is a big problem, we need you to help fix it.
I just didn't want them to think that we supported them taking it out of a homeless budget
Right.
versus their own.
No,
That's all
that's-
my only concern.
Yeah, no, that's a very good point.
No, and that's a good point. And actually, so I will probably be on the resolutions committee, and I'm happy to make that comment because Jason will be on that call. I don't remember if we're doing it in person, or I think it might actually be a Zoom call, and then they'll probably be voting in person. But I'm happy to take that recommendation to say, hey, wait a second, where is the budget coming from for this? They have the money for this at the CPUC. I can understand advocating to give them a chunk of it if they're going above and beyond, but if they're talking about just basic enforcement, that should be in their own budget. So I'm happy to give that feedback in the resolution committee because, yeah, this is going to be a long haul at the league. So.
And at the league, there's also other committees that discuss community services. And one, I have been representing Cloverdale in that particular group, and we've always addressed the issue of homelessness and other services to the community. And, that's committing itself. So this is not, something that is covered. So,
Well, thank
yes.
you all for explaining to me. I appreciate it.
Oh, no, it's a learning curve, believe me.
Yeah. But I think this is a really positive policy goal, and it affects us directly. We have a rail line going right through our city. So I think it's important that we have a voice in this, and I think that they'll be receptive to that feedback because we've dealt exactly with that issue.
So, did we already vote? I know there was a motion and a
Yeah,
second.
Councilmember Bagby made a motion, and Councilmember Paula seconded.
Councilmember Bagby,
Aye.
Councilmember Paula,
Aye.
Councilmember Walter,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Lands,
Aye.
Mayor Cruz.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Very much. And now, adjusting maximum allowable solid waste composting and recycling rates. I'm sure we all saw that in our bill this month. So, David.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. The item before you tonight is a resolution approving maximum allowable solid waste composting and recycling rates under the solid waste collection franchise agreement between the city and Recology Sonoma Marin. For reference, I'll call Recology Sonoma Marin RSM going forward, just for shortening the name. Just by way of background, the council initially entered into a franchise agreement with Redwood Empire Disposal. Subsequent to that action, the city received a request from Redwood Empire Disposal to assign the franchise agreement to RSM, or Recology Sonoma Marin, and council subsequently did support that. Since the inception of the original franchise agreement back in 2011, the council on an annual basis has considered an annual rate increase in September 1st of each corresponding year. During that time frame, there was a notable change in one of the key components that makes up disposal costs, and that is in regards to what we call the tipping fee at the landfill. And just for reference, the landfill is operated by a separate entity. It's not Recology, it's Republic Services, Inc. So it's a third party that operates the landfill. And every year in April, they change, and usually it's increase in the tipping fee. And the reason I bring that up is because that's one of the components that drives this annual change in solid waste rates. The franchise agreement that was approved by council provides for Recology to request a annual rate adjustment based on what's referred to as the Refuse Rate Index, or RRI. That RRI consists of really 5 components, and that disposal component, again, is a major portion of that. And there's a fee that's charged for Recology to deliver or transport solid waste for disposal to the landfill. Ultimately, on an annual basis on April 1, those tipping fees are increased, and what Recology does is build that into the refuse rate index to cover that additional cost increase. Other components of that refuse rate index, of course, include the collections component. That's really the internal costs of borne by Recology to provide the service within the city. That includes things like fuel costs, annual labor rate increases, vehicle maintenance, as well as certain other factors. There's other components that make up that refuse rate index do include what's a new component called the compostable materials processing fee. That was an additional fee that was enacted through Sonoma County and ultimately approved by all cities to address the need to dispose or treat or process, I should say, compostable green waste. As you know, by history, the compost facility at the Central Landfill was shuttered during the term of this franchise agreement, and therefore there's been in its place an additional cost because a lot of that green material actually ends up getting shipped outside Sonoma County. In addition, there is a franchise fee component. That's a fee that was set by council as part of the franchise agreement that was set at 11% of the overall rates, and that's embedded into the fees. And then last but not least, because the tipping fee is adjusted in April, but our franchise agreement has an annual adjustment date of September 1st, there's this retroactive component to collect the lost tipping fees that they're paying from the period between April 1st and September 1. And it usually really represents a very small or minor component of the overall refuse rate index. Typically in midsummer, RSM will submit their annual rate adjustment application. What staff does is employ a third-party entity to conduct a independent review of their rate application to verify and validate all of the calculations that make up the proposed rates. The firm that we've employed to do that work is called R3. R3 generally only represents public entities and is an independent authority and a professional authority regarding solid waste rates across California and probably Western United States. They, as part of that review process, they do prepare their own analysis, and they provide that analysis in a memo that's included in your agenda packet. So they were able to validate that the rate application submittal by RSM was indeed accurate as presented. The proposed rate increases are presented in your agenda packet, and I'll just kind of cover them in summary. For residential carts, and again, this is a comprehensive service that includes trash or solid waste, your blue can, recycling, and last but not least, your green can or compostable green waste. The proposed rate adjustments that are included in the solid waste rate application range from a low of 65 cents for a customer who has a 20-gallon container up to just under $1 or 97 cents for a customer that has a 96-gallon or a very large container. For your commercial customers, the total adjustments range from 78 cents to up to $1.35 per month. And then there's some adjustments for your larger commercial bins that may also serve multifamily from $1.93 to $3.42 a month. So that kind of gives you a perspective on the proposed, the actual changes in the rates overall. residential cart rates are proposed to increase on average about 2.37%, and commercial rates about 0.75 for an overall average of 1.15%. Included in your packet is a resolution with a rate schedule. If you adopt it, that would set the new proposed rates for 2021 or September 1st going forward, and enable Recology or RSM to, adjust those rates to account for the increase in the tipping fee as well as the retroactive period starting in April 1st. So with that said, staff, based on the review by Recology, is recommending that council approve the resolution included in your packet, and we're happy to entertain any questions you have. Participating tonight is Nicole. Nicole's a representative for RSM, and we may have, if she's there, Carrie Baxter. Carrie Baxter's here from R3, who performed the rate review application submitted by RSM.
Council?
Just a question. Yeah, David, do you know if we heard from, the chamber? I know they had to leave, but we heard any concern about the commercial rates? Because, and honestly, just the minor feedback I've gotten, I mean, we're talking about under $1 for even the biggest, residential, the 96 gallon. It's 65 cents for a 20 gallon, which I think is what I have. So I don't think the residents are very excited, but I could see, the commercial folks might have had some complaints. Had anything come in from the business community with concerns?
I have not heard any.
I didn't get a letter or an email or any feedback. Just kind of had a casual, conversation with the neighbors, and they're like, it's less than $1. I don't care, So for them. So I just was wondering if there was anybody else who had some concerns.
Well, we have a very active Recology representative in town, and she's quite active with all the businesses. Okay. She visits them regularly, and she knows of the concerns and so on. And we haven't had, and I think we are in compliance. At one point, we were not in compliance and facing some challenges, but at this moment, everybody's quite clear. And the issue has been that 1383 is also coming about. So not only the people from Recology, but the people from Zero Waste have been very active in Cloverdale.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That probably explains why it's already been vetted. Yeah,
yes, okay. It has been explaining many of the issues to the different business owners and to the groups. I want to take advantage and also say that, some of these charges for things other than trash, recyclables, and compostables, people don't really have to pay, especially when we have zero waste mattress collection or electronic collection. We also have in zero waste now picking up like wood that has been treated that cannot be disposed into the regular landfill. So all these other services that are being provided keep people from having to pay for all these things. So it is a service that's coming to the community through Zero Waste.
And Madam Mayor, if I can add, I often do get call from senior citizens in particular that may be on a fixed income, that are asking for whether there is support available. And I just want to mention it's included in the rate resolution, or excuse me, the rate sheet that's attached to the rate resolution, that the Recology does offer a low-income discount. Right. And there is a small application on Recology's website for residents to apply for that discount. We as the city don't oversee that program. It's available directly through RSM, but residents are encouraged to go to the website and, if they qualify, seek that discount, because they do see they do provide lower rates, similar to other utilities for qualifying customers.
Well, this would be great information for our monthly information corner at Cloverdale Connect. Not only with the trash, but also with the water and so on. So definitely keep that in mind for what we're going to share with the community. Council, do you have other questions? Yes.
Just one comment. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to see Recology put out a pamphlet that talks about how to get rid of certain things that shouldn't go into the trash in each jurisdiction. For instance, fluorescent light bulbs. We used to be able to dispose of those at our local ACE, but because of the difficulty of transporting them, they're no longer accepting them there. And it's making it very difficult to get rid of certain things for our residents. And so if we had a resource sheet for batteries, prescription medications, fluorescent light bulbs, and the list goes on of things that really shouldn't be put into the trash, where to safely get rid of those so they don't end up in the trash or on the side of the road, or people do things with them that they shouldn't be doing. So I think that kind of a resource sheet and keeping it current would be so helpful to the residents. So I'd like to just request that.
Actually, Zero Waste has it.
I think they send it quarterly.
And-
I get
and they
it's in
have-
my
Does it-
laundry room.
Well, and if the one I received doesn't talk about fluorescent light bulbs, as an example, it does talk a little bit about batteries, but it doesn't really identify the locations. Even if there's not one locally in town, there's the one in maybe Santa Rosa or Healdsburg. It's just having that resource so you know you could go and dispose of these safely, and that's what I'm asking.
We'll definitely mention it to Emily, but I'll definitely mention it to the outreach coordinator for
Great.
Zero Waste, because we do have a lot of that material. And actually, they featured me reusing bottles at one point in Recology, making the hot sauce that I have been distributing among some of you. Using bottles, reusing bottles to make the hot sauce that I normally give out. I have to give some to Jose, but David Kelly loves it. Any other comments on Recology? I mean, I was very happy to see that there is an opportunity for low-income people to do this, and perhaps we should talk to Melanie Hall in the senior center to see how they are distributing this information, or perhaps to include it in their monthly newsletter.
You know what? It's on the Zero Waste website. I just found it.
Yeah, it is.
So yeah, that's actually what they want you to do, is they want you to go to zerowastesonoma.gov, and then you can enter the material you need to dispose of in the search, and it brings up how to dispose of it and what the events are. And it's tricky because, I mean, I'm glad you brought up fluorescent bulbs, because there's one way you would dispose of them if you're a private resident, there's another for businesses. And so, yeah, all that information, and that's something that we could put out on our newsletter and our website too, is like that. If you have a question about how you dispose of something, you go to zerowastesonoma.gov. And if you have and then during business hours, you can always call them too. Yeah.
And we definitely put that into our monthly
Letter.
announcement to the community, because some people don't go to a computer. So we definitely need to do that with Cloverdale Connect. So soon we'll be voting on that budget, I'm hoping. All right, David? So do we have any hands in the public to talk about this before I bring it back to council?
I see no hands.
Okay, thank you.
Nobody out there.
Uh-huh.
Well, four attendees besides us, so. So, any other questions from any of us? Okay. Well,
Madam Mayor, I'd like to introduce the resolution by title only, resolution of the City Council of the City of Cloverdale approving maximum allowable solid waste composing and recycling rates and repealing rate schedules adopted under resolution number 090-2020.
Second? Are you learning
Councilmember Paul, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Lori, are you learning our voices yet?
it was
The first was by Paula and the second Bagby.
Okay, Councilmember Paula,
Aye.
Councilmember Bagby,
Aye.
Councilmember Walter,
Aye?
Vice Mayor Land,
Aye.
Mayor Cruz.
Aye.
Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we're almost, we're going to have an early retrieve today, I'm hoping. So Finance, Administration, and Police, next meeting October 4th at 1:30 p.m. Now, do we know where this is going to take place? Is it going to be at the library?
Madam Mayor, most of your subcommittee meetings will occur or be planned at the library at this time until we are able to utilize other facilities. But at this time, the library is going to be the most likely source or location for all of our subcommittees, with the exception of the Joint City Schools Subcommittee, which I think our next meeting we're actually planning to be held at the high school at the Makerspace.
We should have a tour of the Makerspace again. I love going to that place. So, let us know when we can show up there. Okay, and I encourage the public to attend some of these subcommittees because many of the issues that come to council are first discussed in the first committee, in the subcommittee, and it is an opportunity for the public to comment and to bring their ideas on how we should be addressing some of the issues. And the agendas are publicized and they are on the website. Okay? Planning and sustainability.
Our next meeting is October 19th, 4 p.m., and I believe it will be at the library, and it is sure to be an exciting event.
Yeah, it's the day after my birthday, so you better do something. Okay?
No pressure.
What is it?
It'll be the day after her birthday.
Oh, the day after.
I'll bring cupcakes, don't worry.
We're on a diet. Public Works.
Madam Mayor, we'll be meeting on September 28th at 2 p.m.
Thank you. Joint City Fire, October 11th. Seems like we're having a very busy October. And unfortunately, we had a grant denied. David, could you give an update on that?
I would say I'm happy to report, provide a report to council. I did, but with unfortunate news, I did receive a notification today from CAL FIRE that our application for grant funding for vegetation management at Porterville Creek Open Space was not approved. I will follow up to see if we can obtain the scoring rubric from CAL FIRE for that. To determine if, where we might be able to bolster our application in the future. Prior to the final decision, there was an inquiry of all of the applicants from Sonoma County in regards to the substantial funding that was provided to the county for vegetation management by and through the presidential administration. So there was maybe some concern that that funding source could be utilized for vegetation management, and I know that the request for funding, of course, outstretched the available funding, and maybe the perspective was that because of the large sum that the Biden administration approved for Sonoma County, that may have weighed in on some of the decision making relative to our application, but I don't know that for certain, and we'll try to get a better understanding of where there may have been deficiencies in our application to see if we can't, now that we've prepared it, we can bolster it and resubmit at the next funding round.
And I have a meeting tomorrow with Senator Maguire's office specifically to address these.
Is it before or after my meeting?
I don't know.
Mine's at 3:30.
Oh, it's before.
Before. Okay, great. We'll double team them. So,
Yeah.
I got some feedback on that. I took the liberty of forwarding that letter to Adrian Garialdi, who are all familiar with doing related work on the county and trying to get funding for wildfire prevention. And she's the one who, I think, gave a very good recommendation of get back in touch with CAL FIRE and find out, what were the reasons, so that we can do better on the next grant. And then,
Yeah, and we did it, we got one from Gore and then from McGuire, and
but
so.
then I also heard back from someone, the person I'm meeting with in McGuire's office tomorrow, and he was, and of course, no promises are made, but it was just, he was very gratified to see, like, look, these are the efforts that we make to go out and get this funding, and they say no. And these are priorities for our community. And so he said, I'm going to follow up on this, and I'm going to have the ledge staff follow up on this. So he was concerned that we were denied, and which is, I think, it's very gratifying, because they understand that these are the, these are the roadblocks that face cities when we try to go after funding for this. While we're providing, Porterfield Creek is an important resource, and it's appreciated by so many people, but at the same time, we need the extra resources to maintain that, challenging piece of property. So at least at least they're hearing us and understanding that this is a problem when we are constantly getting denied funding for wildfire control. So hopefully we'll continue to work with Adrian and work with Senator McGuire's office and make a better showing next time.
Well, we'll see what happens. And on the other hand, I do have some good news from Vice Mayor Land in terms of his efforts for vegetation management of the river. So that didn't have to go through the same process, but it did go through a lot of hoops and people and agencies and so on. So would you please announce what we're doing on Friday?
Absolutely. As of today, the county gave us the permission and brought in SAT crews to start doing vegetation management along our riverbeds and inside the riverbed. And so what it's basically doing is they're clearing all the invasive species, and they are creating canopies in the trees up to 14 feet high to create a fire break for our town, since the fear is the fires will come from the east to the west for Cloverdale. And so we are creating a fire break using the riverbed as part of that. Between James Gore's office, our own city staff, everyone, I can't thank you guys enough for making it happen. The SAT crews, we've been approved for 2 crews for up to 10 weeks approximately. I don't think it'll take that long, and so I think after about 3 or 4 weeks we'll start winding down. However, they've worked together with us and worked hard to make sure that between the public and the private funding, there's enough money to make sure Cloverdale community stays safe with the vegetation management. I'll roll that into my homelessness community advisory group real quick, just because we had multiple fires in double digits started by some of the homeless living at the river. And so this, this will eliminate a lot of the fear and frustration that our community has had over the past few months. And speaking with the SAT crew leaders, they want to make this a yearly maintenance project. And so this won't just be a one-time thing and everything grows back in 6 weeks. This will be something they'll be looking to do and come back in the springtime and maintain this so that we can not only keep the vegetation down for fire, we can keep the river clean and make it usable for our community.
So why don't you go ahead and talk about the homeless community group?
So,
and then do the school.
Okay, very good. Our next meeting is September 14th, and it's going to be at 1:30 at the library. I'll just give a quick rundown. What we're trying to create right now is a coalition between all the different homeless advisory groups that we have in the area that supply Cloverdale's homeless with any type of need that they have. And so what we're doing right now is everyone's starting to come together, create this coalition so that we can share information. And when you share the information, you can create a type of spreadsheet so that you know who you're dealing with, what they need, and which is the best track to get them funding, to get them housing, or get them stabilized, or whatever is necessary for each person individually. And it get phone number. Now we have someone there that will be able to help and follow them through a process, and that is the ultimate goal, is making sure that there is something for everyone and that we're prepared for them.
And yesterday, St. Vincent de Paul started the activities again at the church, or the Catholic Church here. So this is definitely going to be a collaboration effort between the city homeless community advisory group and St. Vincent de Paul. So we are all talking to each other, which is what's necessary in Cloverdale, for all entities to talk to one another so that the right hand knows what the left hand is doing and so on, and that we can have better results for everyone in the community. And then we have the joint city school district, and after that I would like for Councilmember Pala to give us an update on the efforts with the county and the pool.
So the city school subcommittee, the next meeting is September 20th, 5 o'clock in the high school makerspace. Updates, there isn't much to update from the last meeting other than all their big projects for Measure H are on track. And speaking of the track, on September 17th, they will be doing a ribbon cutting for the new football field and track facility. It is in between the football games at 7 p.m., and so it would be nice to see as many people as we can go there for the ribbon cutting and also to support your local Eagles football.
Yes, thank you. And so there has been a lot of work behind the scenes here in this town. We've been on the phone and on the computer, I don't know how many hours a day. But Councilmember Pala has some updates on the pool.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just real briefly, I've been kind of following the pool. I was hoping that that new solar heating system would have been installed several years back, but unfortunately ran into some glitches. And one of the glitches, of course, it needs all new plumbing. And it's going to be a major undertaking. It's going to run anywhere from $500,000 to $600,000 to redo that pool. And the county is on board. I've been monitoring that. I've reached out to each of the board of supervisors directly and spoke to them regarding the pool. I think we have full support for the funding, and I know.
Yes, we do.
And I think we're going to see that move forward once the swim season ends this year, which should be around the 1st of October. But the actual funding bill was scheduled to go to the board on August 27th originally. For some reason, it was moved to September. It's going to be on the September 14th agenda. It's item number 16 on their agenda. I don't anticipate a problem. I think they're going to move forward to do those repairs.
Oh, yeah.
And then in collaboration with the city and the Cloverdale School District and city, school district, and there was one other. The county of Sonoma, thank you, yes. We are going to be moving forward once all those improvements are done with the installation of the new solar heating system. So the objective would be two things. One is to have that fully operable by the opening of the pool 2022 with all the repairs done in a fully heated pool, as well as we're working in collaboration with the school district to try to identify students that may be interested in becoming certified lifeguards. We got all the information working with the Y. That's been another problem why the pool's been closed, is because they're having problems getting lifeguards. So we're going to try to get a pool of local students, and the superintendent of the school is very receptive. So we got all the information, and we're going to start trying to get some people certified. So come the swim season next year, we should have a good pool. Hopefully.
And also a pool of workers for, the not only the lifeguards, but for any kind of concession and to have extra in case somebody is sick. Because at this point, the problem has been that we can have up to 50 people in the pool if we have 3 lifeguards. But if we have 2 lifeguards, we can only have 25 in the water. And it's very disappointing for many parents when this happens. And, I want the public to also understand that there have been problems with chlorine in the country. And that was one of the reasons why we had to close the pool at one point. But we're working very closely with the county, with the Y, and everybody is on board on making sure, hopefully, there are no fires and no other interventions here for us to be able to continue and to make the most of the pool. So,
Can I ask a
It
question,
just-
Joe?
Yes,
One
go
other comment, though, well, it just came to me, is the goal next year, once the pool's heated, would be to expand the swim
programs.
season. Have it weekends, maybe after school, as well as through the summer months. So I just wanted to get that in
Oh,
for the
yes.
community.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I'm just wondering, Joe, do you think you have it pretty well under control? Is it going to be on the consent calendar at the Board of Supervisors? Or do you need it, would it be helpful to have a joint letter from the council and the school board? I mean, what would, is there any needed support for this?
I've reached out, and I didn't anticipate that there's going to be any concerns. They're all aware, and the bill, this is incorporated in the bill for all veterans halls.
Okay.
And our
Yes.
pool for here it's
It's part of
included the
that.
funding. And the director didn't anticipate any problems. I reached out, offered to meet individually with each board member if they had any questions to
Well,
explain it.
just threaten to meet with
Yeah.
them, and that should take care of it.
I think,
No,
not,
it's going to happen, and, you
Yeah.
know, they
it
have a
never
big
hurts
budget.
to reach out to them,
Right, right.
just to offer,
Yeah,
ask
but
them
if
to
there's
support
anything,
it.
if there's any extra support, it's just, please, let me know,
Yeah.
let us know, and
And
we'll do what we
Supervisor
need to.
Gore is totally on board.
Great.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah, and, I have been meeting with him too, and that's one of the points that have been in discussion over and over. He knows that.
Yeah, and Joe, just one more question. I should know the answer to this, but that pool of funding for Veterans Halls, is that coming from federal funding or is that county funding?
It's a
Do you know
combination.
offhand?
I do not know that.
Okay.
I know initially it was mostly federal funding, but where the money's coming from today to do the improvements, I don't have that answer.
Thank you.
Supervisor Gore did mention that it's part of the recovery.
So they're using some Recovery Act
Yeah,
funds.
because the veterans, hall is going to be totally revamped too. Yeah. Okay. Bueno. So my report will be sent written later. I've been very busy in the county with Zero Waste Sonoma and all the changes that are coming with 1383 and some changes modifications that need to take place in order for small cities, rural cities not to be impacted negatively. And also meeting with supervisor about the pool, the Veterans Hall. I have been working with Sonoma Transit in terms of looking for alternatives for us to try to establish a cooling and heating center in Cloverdale. So, my report's coming. Any other reports? Yours were submitted
Mine's submitted in writing.
in writing? Anything for anybody else?
Nope.
Okay, so please share with us anything that you're engaged in so that we know what you guys are doing, how we can support one another, and how we can join forces. Vice Mayor Lance and I have been working very closely when it comes to homelessness, and it has proven to be a very good exercise for everybody in the city and for all of Cloverdale. So I'm very happy about that. David, any legislative reports?
Madam Mayor, members of the council, I was informed today of a resolution in regards to an application that's been submitted to the Surface Transportation Board opposing an application for shipment of coal on local rail lines. The request is for councils to consider a resolution in opposition to this proposal, which involves transporting coal through Sonoma County up to the port of Humboldt. Staff has not had the opportunity to fully digest the sample resolution that's been provided, but we do seek your direction if you'd like us to bring this back for council consideration.
What's the deadline on that, David?
Not aware of a hard deadline. Our understanding is that the Federal Surface Transportation Board will be considering this application. Don't know what the time, I don't know their time frame for review, but there is been a request to consider a resolution in opposition because of potential impacts of transporting coal, again, through portions of Sonoma County and as well as Mendocino County and Humboldt County because of the potential impacts of those rail shipments of coal through areas that also support our water supply, and of course considerations regarding greenhouse gas emissions related to that coal. If council supports that, we would of course provide more analysis to the extent that we can gain more information about this proposal and bring it forward for formal consideration at your next meeting.
Another point for our meetings tomorrow
yeah,
with
and
Senator
actually-
Maguire, because he is against this.
Actually, this is coming from his office,
Yeah.
asking us if we're interested in supporting this. And I guess I'd have to ask a follow-up question. I'm assuming that this will also come before SCTA, our CPA, and so I would love to hear council's position on this so that I can represent your interests regarding this on that board. I'm assuming you would be opposed to it, though. That would be.
I would just hate to see staff doing a lot of work on something that chances are is never going to get funded anyhow. Is there a subcommittee we could discuss this at? I don't think anybody's in favor of it.
Well,
That's the problem. I just don't want to see a lot of staff time.
Well, they supplied
They supplied the
they
letter.
supplied the language. So it would just be a copy paste for the most
Yeah.
part, and just, following up on timeframes, and it's not a big deal. But it's an issue for us because it's in our backyard. The other thing that does is it blows up the Great Redwood Trail plan, because if there is any opposition to that, then that deal falls apart. So, just so that you know, it's probably, it would be a good thing to come out, especially, it literally goes right through our backyard.
Yeah.
I think it's appropriate for us to come out and take a stand on it.
It would be helpful to put it on the agenda, I think, with a presentation so we all understand it, and maybe, then we can take action based on that, yeah.
Yeah, and then I could hear, you take direction to, I'm assuming that there'll be a similar question before SCTA that I'll need to weigh in on. So.
We're meeting with different people tomorrow, so it would be good to get.
Okay, good, great. Yeah, but it came from
McGuire's
office,
office, yes. Yeah, and actually, I think all of us got that somewhere in our email. Okay, anything else, David?
No further informational reports, Mayor?
Actually, I should have asked if there were any information, comments from the chief or Kevin.
I have no comment.
How are we doing in COVID? That's next, right? Oh, water supply, sorry. Attorney?
So, and maybe I'll start, and David, you could add any, but for as far as our office, I did update the council. We have been very active regarding the water curtailment order. Both staff with David also leading some of our consultants. We have our interim city engineer involved and staff. I know it's all hands on deck here with Susie's also been involved with her team. We have filed a couple petitions, two petitions, a petition for minimum health and safety needs. You remember the curtailment order was discussing or required folks to only use 55 gallons per day, but the 55 gallons of water, we've talked about it and we won't go through it here. It wasn't clear what was encompassed with whether it was just residential, commercial, where did industrial fit. We have petitioned looking at the water usage for the city because 55 is not enough. So we have petitioned for more, and we have also petitioned for reconsideration based on the legal arguments. We talked a lot about the 1914 rights. We don't want to just forget about that. We want to make sure that we're filing our motion. We don't need to argue about it now, but we at least wanted to file it and let them know. You could put it aside for now. We don't need to go through the merits. We could focus on the water because Cloverdale is not saying, we're not ignoring the problem. We're not saying we're not going to participate in conservation of water, but we're saying what you're putting out just doesn't make sense, and here's kind of what we need. Hopefully, we could work together with the water board to hopefully get there. And I'll keep the council updated, of course. I'll let you know once we hear back from the water board on where we go from there.
Thank you. Any questions? No, I think we're doing a good job. And I understand that our use is up and down, but we're keeping up with water usage. Okay, so David, back to status update on current impacts of water supply.
Mayor, members of council, just a brief update on COVID. A couple of positive things I'd like to share with council. We got current data on vaccine distribution and administration, and it's exciting to report that currently 83% of our population, 12 and old, are now fully or partially vaccinated within Sonoma County, and that's a rate much higher than the percentage of fully or partially vaccinated in California, which is around 67%, and much higher than overall United States, which is about 62%. So Sonoma County continues to lead the way in terms of getting vaccinated. With that said, we are seeing kind of a concerning trend and increase in cases relative to COVID, particularly related to, and it seems to be almost directly associated with what everyone's probably heard too much about, the Delta variant. So we have seen recently that particularly the zip code for Cloverdale has been kind of in a top tier, unfortunately, of case rates for COVID. So it is kind of in my opinion, a call for action to continue to support appropriate mitigation measures, which of course from our health advisors and health officers includes continuing to support vaccinations, wearing masks indoors like we are all doing today, and also testing. We are seeing that with the rise in cases that there's kind of a limitation on the availability of testing, and that kind of speaks to one of the most recent changes that occurred within Sonoma County. On August 5th, the Sonoma County Health Officer, Dr. Mays, did issue a new health order which required all fire law enforcement and emergency medical service workers to show proof of vaccination, and if those workers do not, do have to submit or undergo weekly testing. Initially, when the health order came out, it did have a deadline for the new mandate effective September 1st. There was an extension of the September 1st deadline for the testing component. I think it's the 17th, Chief? 24th. So there was a little bit of a reprieve given on the testing side because of the limitation in the supply of testing. But that is something that your staff has been working on, is addressing this new mandate to ensure that we're able to comply with the health order for our emergency personnel, which is our police department. And I want to say thank you to all of our officers who've stepped up, including the chief, and done the work to support vaccinations in our community. What we're starting to see now is a trend among local governments to extend similar requirements to their workforce, and of course that was a recommendation that was embedded in the health order on August 5th. So since that time, Sonoma County, of course, has taken the lead to implement similar action by adoption of a policy requiring all of their workers to either be vaccinated or submit to weekly testing. And likewise, the Santa Rosa City Council has taken similar action, and my understanding is a number of other cities are in the process of working on a similar policy. And I think a key aspect of that is to address COVID in the workplace, because we're starting to see some of the impacts of COVID either on lost productivity, but also impacts on employee health, and ultimately when it impacts employee health, it impacts healthcare costs, and that's something that we pay for as a city for our employees, and what we can do to keep those costs down obviously helps our premiums. So staff is looking at a policy and working with our legal team, of course, in considering and bringing something similar forward that would require vaccines or weekly testing. We do think there's opportunity to maybe expand the testing requirements more as a surveillance component. As we know, as we're hearing about breakthrough cases in COVID, and to just make sure that we are doing our part to address potential exposures as quickly and rapidly as we can. But that's under consideration by our team with our city attorney, and that's something that's we're kind of looking at the models that have been adopted by both our large county partner and other cities. So that's into my report, Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
So, David, just so that you know, and so that the council knows, so at our last SMART board meeting on Wednesday the 1st, the SMART board approved a change in human resources policy for all new hires are required to be vaccinated, and the board directed staff to bring back to a subsequent meeting. We all agreed that we wanted the board to be required and for existing employees to be required to be vaccinated because we wanted to lead by example. So just so that you know, you might be able to hit up the SMART HR group as well, and they might be willing to share some of those policies with you. As I think we were one of the first, or right after the city of Santa Rosa to implement that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any suggestions for future agenda items?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
if I could, it's not for a future agenda item. I just wanted to remind everybody, I'm sure you know, that Saturday is September the 11th, 9/11. The fire department every year does a ceremony in front of the fire building.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we don't get a personal invitation, but it's always there. So I encourage everyone to try and make it.
And at what time? At the
It's
time
at
of the
9.
towers?
Yeah.
9
Okay.
o'clock? Okay.
Yeah, 9 o'clock. Public
Yeah.
is invited to attend at the fire station. Okay. And I want to also say that, I do meet weekly with city manager, and Vice Mayor Lance is going to be joining those meetings once a month as we continue to collaborate on our leadership for the city of Cloverdale. Thank you very much. Good night. Thank you. Your assistance today, ladies.
Thank you, Lori.
And we'll see you soon. Have a good evening and have a good meal.